This week we take a moment away from the Nintendo hype to look at a few of the other big games out at the moment. We chat to Guerrilla Games about Horizon Zero Dawn, Johnny discusses For Honor with Ubisoft, and Angelo tells us all about his experiences with Halo Wars 2. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and after last week's big Mass Effect Andromeda special, we are still not done with BioWare's upcoming space opera. In fact, we're not sure which of this week's big announcements is in fact the most impressive. Firstly, the game is now officially finished. It has been sent off to the factory to be processed and then shipped out to retailers. This news was accompanied by details on what exactly you will need to play the PC version of Andromeda, and if your computer isn't the latest and greatest, you should still be able to jump into the new galaxy. 8GB of RAM, 55GB of hard drive space, a NVIDIA GTX 6620 or AMD Radeon 7850, and you should be pretty set. Anything better than that is gravy. And honestly, you would probably like to run a game like this on the highest setting. BioWare General Manager Aaron Flynn has gone on the record describing the game as softcore space porn. The comment followed an assessment by the ESRB which referenced full nudity present in the game. The Australian Classification Board has observed the game also contains strong sex scenes and violence, so yeah. Making this snippet even more potentially interesting, it has been confirmed that Game of Thrones actress Natalie Dormer has stepped up to the mic to voice Asari Doxa Lexi Tepero, one of the first characters you'll meet after waking up on The Tempest.
Makes it sound so easy, doesn't it?
Other voices you might hear in-game include Frida Wolf, the narrator from Civilization Beyond Earth, Tom Taylorson, who played the title role in Octodad Deadliest Catch, and British TV actor Gary Carr. Moving on though, and you might recall us mentioning that Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax had won a court case against Oculus on the grounds of copyright infringement. At the time we said the publisher could take things further, and now it seems it has. ZeniMax has officially asked a federal judge for an injunction blocking Oculus from using ZeniMax code in its products. The tech company has already made the disputed code available to third-party developers, so this injunction would effectively limit the number of games available for the Oculus Rift. Oculus has responded, labelling the verdict legally flawed and factually unwarranted, while lawyers from ZeniMax declined to comment. We will see how this one pans out. It could be a significant blow to the future of VR as we know it. Moving on, and after years of mods, Australia has been added to Civilization 6, bringing diggers, outback stations and Prime Minister John Curtin to the game. Predictably, reaction to the addition has been polarised. Our 200-year-old nation has been labelled unimpressive and unworthy of the inclusion, while other fans are delighted to see how we're represented in-game. Australia was added as part of the Australian Summer 2017 update, which is available now for Civ 6, and it brings a whole lot of bug fixes, balance tweaks and other bits and pieces to the game. Another major update has also hit Watch Dogs 2, and it seems that Ubisoft have left a little something out of the patch notes. After the update landed last week, NPCs started referring to a bunch of missing teenagers. Some in-game snooping revealed a bunch of clues backed up by snippets on Watch Dogs 2 social media. Turns out there's a creepy little urban legend laced into the story now, so even if you've played through Watch Dogs 2, it might be time for a revisit. And in more update news, the new content for Pokemon Go has not changed one of the game's key Easter eggs. You can still determine what your Eevee will evolve into simply by changing its name. We all know that Sparky, Raina and Pyro would prompt a Jolteon, Vaporeon or Flareon, but if you're after an Espeon, you want to name your Pokemon Sakura, while the name Tameo will grant you an Umbreon. As always, this is not 100% guaranteed to work, but it looks like it is happening more often than not, so if you're a fan, it's worth a shot. In quick news now, if you need even more Final Fantasy in your life, the former GameStop exclusive side-scroller A King's Tale will soon be available on PSN and Xbox Live for anyone who wants it, for free. Keep an eye out, there is no set release date for this one just yet, but early March is the expectation. If you've been hanging out for a sequel to Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, you are in luck. Warner Brothers has remained pretty quiet on the topic, but those pesky online retailers have let the cat out of the bag. You can now add Middle-earth: Shadow of War to your wishlists. Expect it on PS4 and Xbox One in mid-August. Chris Redfield is referring to Resident Evil with a new DLC pack announced Resident Evil 7 launching later this year. The free add-on will bring back one of the series' most well-loved protagonists, but Capcom is keeping quiet on just what he'll be getting up to. We'll have more on the game later, but Ubisoft has banned literally hundreds of For Honor players without so much as a second chance as the developer cracks down on cheaters in the game. Ubisoft has explained that the Easy Anti-Cheat program flags accounts that have been seen to be cheating or hacking, kicking more than 400 from the game. A further 70 players have also been banned for being offensive. Ubisoft spokesperson has said that fairness is hugely important to the game's creators, so bans are being handed out to first-time offenders, but anyone who thinks they've been unfairly punished can appeal the decision. And finally, we're back to outer space. In late February, NASA announced the discovery of a nearby star system with 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting a star not too different to our own Sun. While getting astronauts onto the planets of the TRAPPIST-1 system is still a while off, you can virtually get up there yourself if you have a copy of Elite Dangerous. The 2.3 update for the game has just entered semi-open beta testing. While the new planets didn't quite squeak into the release, developer Frontier has promised that the second beta release will add TRAPPIST-1 and all 7 exoplanets to the game's simulated galaxy. The 39 Light-Year Leap is just a few clicks in-game, and creator David Braben has confirmed that you will be able to land on at least a few of the new planets. Of course, the 2.3 update also brings a stack of other stuff, a new camera, a commander creator, and the ability to invite other players onto your ship, but seriously, it's new planets. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
There were no signs. It came without warning. Came to us all.
Honor is an incredible game based on the art of battle, which is our own unique system that makes you really feel like you have a weapon in your hands. So the campaign is set a bit in the past. It's kind of the story of why the 3 factions are fighting in our multiplayer. You'll get to learn by playing in the Knights faction, the Viking faction, and also the Samurai faction, how Apollyon, the main villain, is kind of orchestrating chaos between the factions in the campaign.
There's a little bit of intrigue.
There's a lot of intrigue, yes.
Now, you said there before the factions, you've got the Knights, you've got the Samurais, and you've got the Vikings. How do they play out differently?
Well, basically they're like a wrapper around what we think people feel would be the best fantasy of a warrior. So when we ask people, like, are you a Knight, a Viking, or a Samurai, everyone has an answer. So we felt like there was something very core linked to even human values that would resonate with people. And then within each of these factions, we have different fighters, and each of them are unique. There's no like real, the faction doesn't really change the way fighters fight. It's more about what weapons they use.
So began a millennium of conflict.
Depending on the character, you will get big and smaller weapons. But of course, the weapons for the Knights are themed after what Knights would use as weapon types. But each character is really unique, and because of our animation system, we use specialists in these weapons for each of the fighters. And when you get to play them, everything feels totally different. Even though like the core is the same, like the guard, blocking, attacking, guard breaking, and dodge, those are all the same. But different fighters have different chains, different special moves.
And that's the art of battle you were talking about before, wasn't it? So how do we utilize this art of battle?
So what's interesting is that by holding left trigger, you get into, you're locked against an opponent. And then the right stick becomes your attack and your guard. So you choose different stances, top, left, and right. So and even if you have a sword, if you're the warden, your sword is your attack and also your shield. So if I want to attack the enemy that's in front of me, I need to attack where he's not guarding. So if the enemy is guarding top, for example, I need to attack him from the left or right. And then it becomes a mind game, because he will also change his guard. So he might try to attack me from the right, so I need to change my guard to right to block him, and then wait for the right moment to change my guard and attack him where he's not blocking.
So it's a combination of a dance and chess, essentially.
I guess so, yeah, that's a good description.
And is there a system in there where some characters have weaknesses and flaws that are better against other characters, or is it all down to sheer skill?
A bit of both. For sure, different characters having different weapons have advantages or disadvantages against other characters with different weapons. So you have to take that into account. But then the skill, I think, is the most important aspect of the art of battle.
And I saw earlier when you were going through the single-player campaign stuff, there's like lesser enemies and then there's more advanced enemies. Is that kind of the two-hit combo you go through the campaign with?
Yeah, well, because we want to have variety in how you fight your enemies, and also we want to have feelings of big battles. So we need to create different types of enemies that would support these different roles of, I want a big battlefield where I kill a lot of enemies really fast. Those are our soldiers. And then you get into a one-on-one fight and duel a specific a hero or a captain or a sergeant. So it's really to create like interesting mechanics and experiences for the player.
I am Apollyon. I bring war.
I am fortunate enough to be standing here with Hermen, who is Managing Director of Guerrilla Games, who is, of course, developing Horizon Zero Dawn, which is one of the things that, obviously, people are falling madly in love with this year.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's been a real pleasure to be here this year. We unveiled last year, but this year we actually came with part of the game. We showed it to people, and it just seemed to be really, really liking what we're making.
There are two things that I've heard people talking about your game. One of them is you have a strong female protagonist, yes, which is incredibly important these days, but I'm not going to ask you why, because obviously Aloy is a girl and it's just who she is, right?
She's a great person, and she happens to be a lady, right? And there's not really much more to that discussion other than that she's fabulous and she's a heroine and she's very determined to unravel the major mysteries of this world.
So we should probably speak a little bit about Aloy and what she's doing, and can we ask how she got there, or is that what we're exploring?
Well, that's kind of the whole thing. She was born an outcast, and she has this very gentle man looking after her, and she's brought up and she doesn't know where she came from. So unraveling the origin of where she came from and who her mother is one of the big themes in this game.
And the other thing that everybody is talking about is robot dinosaurs. I've heard that apparently they're not actually robot dinosaurs. So what are they?
We call them machines, and the thing about the machines is that the people in this world, including Aloy, have never known a world without these machines. So to them it is a life form. However, it's the dominant life form now. They rule the planet, really, and humanity is looking to either hunt them down or usually try to survive amidst them. That's roughly how the roles are now, about 1,000 years into the future.
And I mean, they are incredible creatures, these machines. We saw Aloy, she would hunt some of them, but then she would also catch them and then ride them. So they are multi-purpose machines.
That's it. We've developed an entire ecology of machines, and they have very different roles. Some of them, like the Watcher is kind of like a scout unit. It protects others. It calls in reinforcements. Then you saw in the E3 press conference, at the Sony conference, you saw the Shell Walker, that crab. So that's got a crate with a ton of loot in it, but that's more like a conveying, like a transportation unit. Some are combat type robots. You see the big, it's kind of like a giraffe looking tall neck, we call it, that huge one. They all have their own purpose, have their own role in this world, and you're going to figure out exactly how that all ties together.
And I need to get from point A to point B really quickly. I'm going to go harness that buffalo-looking one.
That's it. So Aloy has access to some old world technology, and one thing is she's got that focus so she can scan the machines. The other part is she's got that spear and she can hack him, she can override him. And she can either get them to fight alongside her, or some of these machines are mounts, they're mountable, and you're going to need that because this seamless world is quite big. In terms of landscapes, it's a very diverse world. You saw what you saw, but there are snow-capped mountains, there are arid deserts, rivers. You explore settlements, cities. You come across everything,
and it's all stunning.
We take pride in doing great graphics, and whereas the beauty in the Killzone series kind of was more gritty in nature, we wanted to have just a beautiful world that you want to be in. You just want to spend time in it and go explore it.
Because this is very different from the Killzone series. What's it been like working on something that's such a complete 180?
It is, it kind of in some ways stands on the show. We've always worked on mechs, and now we're doing machines, and but it's also thematically and in terms of the kind of beauty that we're trying to create, it's very, very different, and that's great. I mean, after working on a series for a while, it's just great for the team to sink their teeth into something that is so different.
Where did the idea actually come from for Horizon Zero Dawn?
We did a round of pitches when we shipped Killzone 3 in 2011, and this was one of the ideas that came out of the team. Very broad strokes initially, and we developed it up. But machines, beautiful nature, and Aloy as our lead heroine, those three key components have always been in the concept.
And people have been falling in love with Aloy already. I'm hearing ideas of people doing cosplay, and she hasn't even been playable yet.
There's a strong interest in the cosplaying community, and we've been working with them to make some design guides, and it's been really, really great for us to see people 2-3 days after we unveiled last year, the first women typically come back, and they look phenomenal. Most of them are just gorgeous looking.
As much as, of course, she's a woman just because she was born that way, as a woman, it is really, really great to see that we do have more of these women that we can identify with in video games. It's not all just big, tough guys anymore, so thank you.
No, you're very welcome. The next step is that this just becomes a normal thing, right?
This machine, it looks ancient. Where did it come from?
Wake up. Something has happened.
Good RTS games are hard to come by on consoles. Often they're PC ports that aren't particularly optimized for consoles or controllers. The original Halo Wars for Xbox 360 released back in 2009 and was seen as a saving grace of the genre on consoles. It simplified what are often complex mechanics that RTS games are known for. 8 years on, and Creative Assembly and 343 Industries have delivered the goods with their follow-up to the series, Halo Wars 2.
Feel Feels good to have our feet back on real ground again, doesn't it, Alice?
The game picks up right where the original left off, with the UNSC ship Spirit of Fire awakening its crew from stasis after 28 years. In Halo Wars, the Humans vs Covenant war was in full swing, but things are different now thanks to the events in the main series. The Spirit of Fire finds itself above the Ark, the factory that churns out the Halo superweapons. The ship picks up a distress signal from the structure and investigates, becoming confronted with a ragtag group of former Covenant called the Banished. Halo Wars 2 improves on the controls of the original without making the experience feel unfamiliar. Selecting and shuffling between troops is a snap, and assigning custom squads to different directions on the D-pad is a welcome addition. Hero powers make a return here, this time with the ability to level them up as you progress in a mission. It feels as good as ever to drop ODSTs in the heat of battle or call in airstrikes with the Archer missiles. The campaign itself doesn't overstay its welcome, with 12 missions clocking in at around 7 hours in total. Halo Wars 2 doesn't bog itself down in complex systems or strategic planning to get a solid experience across. Rather, it focuses on what makes the Halo series memorable: good story, interesting characters, and lots of action. In that regard, the game's main strategy is to just get you building armies, generating resources, and fighting for territories to expand your grasp. That said, those playing the game on PC might find Halo Wars 2 a bit too simplistic to really come back to the campaign, but that's where multiplayer comes in. The biggest addition to Halo Wars 2 is Blitz mode. Blitz takes away the need to build bases and manage resources or squad upgrades by replacing them with cards. Think the original Halo Wars mixed in with Hearthstone. Blitz games are 1v1, 2v2 or 3v3 territory modes where the objective is to have the most zones. Having more zones generates more points, and the first to 200 wins. In order to build units or call support strikes, you need to earn energy points which accrue over time or by destroying energy cores after they're dropped into the field. These points are then spent on cards dealt in your hand to build units or call in support strikes. You'll always have 4 cards in your hand, with each card costing a different price depending on their function or how rare they are. Blitz cards are earned throughout the campaign, leveling up your rank, or spending real money in the store for booster packs. Many cards are specific to hero decks, which are named after leader characters in the campaign, though some are neutral within the UNSC or Banished factions. These can be customized to suit your playstyle, and matches usually only last between 5 to 7 minutes at a time, which is perfect if you only want to get a couple of quick rounds in. Otherwise, if you're up for longer, more strategic skirmishes, competitive matchmaking is here too. As mentioned earlier, Halo Wars 2 is also playable on Windows 10 PCs if you bought the digital version. Thanks to Xbox Play Anywhere, you essentially will have 2 versions of the game to choose from if RTSs on consoles aren't really your thing. Your save files will even transfer over in the cloud. The game does have a couple of faults though. There's quite a sharp difficulty spike towards the end of the campaign, but that's because the game forces you to play outside of your own style that you're comfortable with. On the Xbox version, I also had some moments in the last few missions where the game would freeze when new waves of enemies came in. Hopefully it gets patched out, but it's something to bear in mind. Halo Wars 2 is a strong entry to the Halo series and plays well despite which platform you choose from. It's a well-designed game with a slick card-based mode for something new. For those who enjoyed the Halo series, or those wanting a strategy game that isn't too full-on, be sure to give Halo Wars 2 a go.
It's time to show them what power really means around here.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, with the Nintendo Switch now firmly in our hands, we have an entire episode dedicated to this new hybrid console. We'll tell you everything you need to know about the hardware, check out a game or two, and reminisce about just how Nintendo got to where it is now. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.